Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. And with respect to President Biden's announcement yesterday that Reparation H would be riding point on a key issue, see if you can figure out what was my favorite part.
But I've asked her, the VP, today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border.
What was my favorite part?
Stemming the stemming?
No. So Reparation H is going to be the point person to deal with the, don't call it a crisis, at the border.
Oh.
Most qualified. She's the most qualified person to do it.
Really?
Based on what?
Based on what?
What has she done? What executive function has she ever performed? Not to mention, what is her particular expertise on immigration policy or...
I don't know. This was her yesterday in Florida.
Do you plan to visit the border? Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again.
There you go.
Oh.
That laugh.
It's even more infectious than COVID. It really is.
I see.
Yeah, but I mean, again, to be fair to Reparation H, when Obama appointed Biden to ride point on the border, I'm sure, I don't remember what he said, but I'm sure he said the same thing, just to give some sort of, throwaway honorific on the vice president. Here, you handle it. You talk to the press. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Good stuff. Good stuff. Fun times. A funny pair, Biden and Kamala. For more on this and a couple of other issues, pleased to be joined by David Harsanyi, senior writer for National Review, author of First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun from the Revolution to Today. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
So Vice President Harris is on the job. Now it's going to get real.
Well, it's the sort of thing you do to make it seem like you're doing something, but you're really not. Obviously, when you look at polling, it's already problematic for them, the situation, and should be. And that is with basically most of the media just covering for them by calling it, a situation or something instead of freaking out about kids in cages where they are right now in far larger numbers. So, it's the usual.
Yeah, but yesterday they let cameras in for the first time, and they had time to clean up those. It was in Donna, Texas. They had time to clean up that place and shift some of the kids to other shelters to make it look really good. Did you see that?
What kids? There are no kids here.
Oh, yeah. No, they're playing soccer. They showed how they get tested for COVID. 776 are in this one shelter, and 102 of them have tested positive for COVID. And they kind of put that on the back burner. They put that, the last part of their package that aired on television last night.
I know it's sort of lame to always say, can you imagine what this would look like if Donald Trump had done it? But I can't help myself. I mean, it would be just the biggest freak out ever.
Speaking of the same old, David, when are we going to get these weapons of war off our streets?
Yeah, this debate drives me crazy. Yesterday, I feel like I'm writing the same thing over and over again because Democrats constantly go back to the same exact legislation, the same exact arguments that, and they never answer. They never answer the question: how would this have stopped the Boulder shooting? How did this stop the shooting in Georgia? How they never have to do it, and because obviously the legislation, the universal background check, the AR-15 ban, it would not do anything to stop shootings, would not do anything to stop murders, but it's the same old with them.
David, the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, informed the nation that it's easier in this country to vote than to buy a gun. Can you imagine?
I've noticed that talking point everywhere now. Now, it combines two of their pet issues. But the problem with that is that obviously no one sends me an AR-15 through FedEx to my house. I have to show ID before I get a gun, and I can't do same-day background checks and get my AR-15. it's insanity to say that. But he used to say that we could get a book easier, kids can get a gun easier than a book or a computer. It's just, it's just ridiculous.
Clearly, he's never owned a weapon because he's got, he doesn't know about the 3-day background check. I mean, we still have background checks, and why are they acting like every time there's a mass shooting that we need background checks? We already have background checks. We already have rules and laws in place, but the bad guys don't follow the rules or the laws.
Yeah, and sometimes they do, right? Like, this Boulder shooter went and got a gun. He had not been violent before, even though he's on the FBI's radar, which they constantly drop the ball using the laws that we already have. So the universal background check is legislation is just, it's not operable. It doesn't help with these situations at all. They just want to stop private owners from being able to sell a gun to another person. And on the AR-15, it's going to be unconstitutional. It's clear in the Heller decision that AR-15s are commonly used guns. They're semi-automatic rifles. And if you try to go forward with a bill on that, the Supreme Court might overturn it and then overturn state AR-15 bans as well, I think. So I doubt they move forward on that.
Well, something else on the substance of this, too, it's worth noting is that Colorado has red flag laws. And and you had this individual, according to people who have now spoken to the press that knew him from high school and stuff, hair trigger, violent temper. He had the assault incident in high school and so on and so forth. But nobody thought it was serious enough that they should go to court to get his Second Amendment rights removed. So it also, again, the idea that you have this panacea, it's a red flag law. It's the universal background check, really, to deal with private sale exemptions, like you're saying. They're not panaceas. Right.
Right, and thank you for mentioning that. The whole Colorado has the entire menu of policies that they want to pass nationally. There's a universal background check. There are red flag laws. Police already have the ability to take a gun away from someone or prohibit someone from having a gun who is violent or a threat to themselves or others, and they rarely use it. Now, obviously, it's complicated. Every situation is unique, but that also tells us that these laws nationally aren't going to make much difference either.
I mean, it seems to me, I know Biden telegraphed executive action, and people, got all excited about executive action, and then they backed off that. They don't really want to do anything. They just want to demagogue the issue, score the political points, move on to the next thing, isn't it? Isn't that right?
I think so. I mean, I just don't think that they have the constitutional right to do anything through executive action or most of the things that they want to do, pretend to want to do, legislatively.
Let's move on to D.C. becoming a state. What's the likelihood that that's going to happen?
I think not. I think not at all likely that it would happen. But it's part of a bigger sort of message they want to send about how Republicans want to deny people their right to vote and don't want, and don't care about democracy and so on. And the truth is that the more powerful D.C. becomes, the more reason we have not to make it a state. There are many other things we might be able to do, maybe shrink what D.C. is and give, put those people who are outside the new smaller borders into Maryland or Virginia where they belong. But what we don't do is give 2 Senate seats to the federal government, because everyone here, and I live in that area, are reliant on the federal government in some way. And the founders clearly did not see it that way. They made D.C. specifically not to be a state. So there is really no good argument for it.
I wish they would have precluded Illinois from becoming one. David Harsanyi, senior writer, National Review, author of First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun, From the Revolution to Today. David, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
This is attorney Stephen Leahy. This isn't the first crisis we faced together. Back in 2008, business professionals in trouble sought help from bankruptcy attorneys, loan modification attorneys, foreclosure defense attorneys, and IRS attorneys trying to gain full financial recovery. They should have just called me. Let me tell you about Chuck. His small business crashed in the 2008 crisis. He faced 2 foreclosures, overbearing creditors, and the dreaded IRS. Chuck would not even get out of bed in the morning. His wife heard me on the radio and convinced him to hire me. We got Chuck a loan modification and a short sale. We obtained a discharge of his debt and settled what was left of his IRS liability. Now Chuck is back in business and in control of his life. You can hear Chuck tell his own story at fullfinancialrecovery.com. We can get through this new crisis, too. The time to start rebuilding is now. Don't let your life's work go down the drain. Get your free guide to recovery at fullfinancialrecovery.com. That's fullfinancialrecovery.com. Or call me right now at 312-664-6649. There's no time to waste. Fight back now.
Oh, this feels so good. Feels like I'm walking on a cloud. I have on, folks, my pillow slippers. They just